At some point in the deep past, something quietly strange happened. A creature picked up a rock not to throw it, not to admire it, but to change another thing on purpose. That moment did not come with a drum roll or a sudden leap in intelligence. It probably looked boring: a chipped fingernail, a cracked bone, a dull frustration with food that refused to open. This is the part that feels surprising. Tools did not begin as inventions. They began as solutions that worked once accidentally and were then remembered. For millions of years before metal, before farming, before language as we know it, early hominins lived with hands that were already unusually curious. Upright walking freed those hands, and free hands tend to get ideas. Around 3 million years ago, long before our own species existed, stone flakes began appearing in the archaeological record. These were not elegant objects. They were sharp edges knocked loose from larger rocks. Often uneven, often ugly, but sharp beats dull every time. What matters is not how advanced these tools were, but how they were used. A stone flake could cut meat, faster scrape hides cleaner, and reduce hours of chewing into minutes of slicing. That efficiency changed daily life in small compounding ways. Calories became easier to access. Time opened up. Survival grew slightly less exhausting. Importantly, these early tool makers were not sitting around planning technological revolutions. They were responding to immediate needs: hunger, cold, broken bones. A carcass already claimed by predators. Tools emerged not from imagination, but from pressure. When the environment pushes long enough, hands eventually answer. Tools were not a sign of dominance at first. They were signs of vulnerability, of bodies that needed help, of teeth that were no longer enough. In that sense, technology did not begin as power. It began as compensation, and once a useful action is discovered, even by accident, it has a way of being repeated, watched, copied, improved, not because anyone announced a breakthrough, but because the hands remembered what worked last time. Early tool makers slowly learned something subtle and surprisingly sophisticated. Not all rocks behaved the same way. Some shattered uselessly. Others cracked in predictable, almost cooperative patterns. Flint, obsidian, and chert responded to impact like disciplined students, breaking along sharp, controlled lines. This discovery did not arrive through theory. It arrived through sore hands, wasted stones, and long afternoons of trial and, by around 2.6 million years ago, what archaeologists now call the Oldowan tool tradition began spreading across Africa. These tools still looked simple, but the behavior behind them was not. Striking a stone at the correct angle with the right force required anticipation. The maker had to imagine a flake before it existed. That small act, thinking one step ahead of the present, marks a quiet cognitive shift. Stone was no longer just found. It was negotiated with. Over time, repetition taught rhythm. Hits became more deliberate. Waste flakes were reduced. Some stones were carried long distances, suggesting planning beyond the immediate moment. This is important because it shows tools were no longer tied only to emergencies. They were being prepared in advance, like packing an umbrella on a clear day, because clouds tend to return. Then, around 1.7 million years ago, tools changed shape, and so did ambition. Acheulean hand axes appeared symmetrical and carefully balanced, often worked on both sides. These were not accidental objects. They took time. They took patience. Some were so finely made that they seem excessive for simple cutting tasks, hinting that pride teaching or even early aesthetics had entered the process. Stone, in a sense, became a teacher. It rewarded attention and punished carelessness. It trained early humans to slow down focus and think in sequences. Tools were no longer just answers to problems. They were lessons in cause and effect, delivered one careful strike at a time. Once tools became predictable, they began to do something unexpected. they changed the people holding them. Making a tool is not just a physical act, it is a mental rehearsal. The maker must picture an outcome, remember past attempts at just technique, and accept failure without abandoning the goal. Over generations, this repeated mental exercise quietly reshaped how humans thought. Evidence suggests that tool-making accelerated brain development, particularly in areas linked to planning and motor control. This was not because tools were magical, but because they demanded patience and foresight. A poorly struck stone could not be fixed. It had to be replaced. Mistakes carried consequences. And learning required attention. In this way, tools trained discipline long before discipline had a name. Tool use also changed social life. Skills had to be observed, not guessed. Young learners watched elders strike stone again and again, absorbing patterns through imitation. Teaching emerged without classrooms. Knowledge survived individuals. This is a profound shift. When information outlives the body, culture begins. Tools also encouraged cooperation. Large animals required coordinated cutting. Fire-maintained tools required shared responsibility. Some individuals became more skilled than others, and specialization slowly emerged. Not everyone needed to make every tool. Trust became part of survival. If someone was better at shaping stone, others relied on that ability, trading effort for expertise. Time itself felt different. Tools extended the present into the future. A sharpened edge prepared today could solve tomorrow's hunger. This sense of delayed reward, working now for later benefit, is a cornerstone of complex societies. It began not with farming or writing, but with hands striking stone and waiting for the right result. Perhaps the most human consequence of all is this tools created memory outside the mind. A stone axe embodied experience. It held knowledge in its shape. Long before books or symbols, tools became physical thoughts, ideas you could hold, share, and pass down. In shaping tools, humans began shaping themselves. Tools stopped being only about survival and started telling stories. A hand axe could cut meat, yes, but it could also signal skill, patience, and belonging. By the time modern humans emerged, tools carried identity. Styles varied by region. Techniques were inherited. A blade could quietly announce where you came from and who taught you. Around 300,000 years ago, toolkits diversified rapidly. Spears, needles, hooks, and later bows appeared, each extending the human body in specific ways. A spear turned distance into safety. A needle turned animal skin into fitted clothing. These were not just improvements, they were transformations of daily life. Tools reshaped environments as much as environments once shaped tools. Materials expanded beyond stone. Wood, bone, sinew, and eventually metal joined the story. Each new material compressed time. What once took generations to refine could now change within lifetimes. Technology began to accelerate, not because humans became wiser, but because tools made experimentation faster and mistakes cheaper. Tools also drifted into symbolism. Decorative objects, musical instruments, and ritual items emerged, suggesting that humans were no longer only solving problems, but expressing meaning. A carved object did not keep you alive, but it said something about who you were. Technology had crossed an invisible line from necessity into culture. And here is the quiet twist: tools never stopped shaping us. They still do. The same forces that guided stone flakes' efficiency, foresight, shared knowledge now guide digital tools and machines. The pace is faster, the material stranger, but the logic is familiar. Tools did not make humans powerful overnight. They made humans patient. They taught us to plan, to teach, to trust. and to leave traces of thought behind. History did not advance because we held tools. It advanced because we learned how to think with them.